Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of Next to Madison. I am your host, Madison Malloy, and I am here with another great, amazing episode that's going to give you the motivation, inspiration. That's what we're here to do. Help you be happier, healthier, and wealthier. Again, this is episode 181. I am sitting down with Mitzi Perdue. She has been on the podcast a couple years ago talking about another book and foundation she had. She is coming back on because she has a new book that is out called Relentless, with Mark Victor Hansen, who was the gentleman behind the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So this will be a very uplifting, positive episode. If you're having a hard time, this is definitely for you. If you're not having a hard time, but always need to stay positive, this is definitely for you. We always hear about positive thinking and affirmations and law of attraction, and all that stuff is great. And it's really great to practice those things and to train your mindset to think in that way. But life is hard, especially now with, the economy and things of that sort. So don't beat yourself up if you fall a little bit off track when you're trying to live a more positive, healthier lifestyle. Give yourself a break. Sometimes you just need to cry it out. I'll admit, I've been having a very stressful time. But I've been instituting the principles that I've learned over the years and that I've learned on this podcast to help shorten that time of not staying there. We always, get depressed or we get discouraged, but you have to let yourself cry. That always makes me feel better. When I have just a big cry, I just let it all out because it's suppressed emotion. And then I get back on, I pull up my big girl panties and I'm like, all right, let's do this. So sometimes you need to just kind of have that reset. But this will be a great episode. They're talking about their new book, Relentless, as I mentioned, and what it means to be relentless. And we're going to get a lot of good insight. Those of you who have heard of most of us have all heard of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. If you hadn't read it before and you had read the famous book, The Secret, which is all about the law of attraction, that is one of the first stories in The Secret. So really, really great that I'm able to sit down with one of the authors on this episode. So we're going to get into it. We're going to get all the positive stuff. So hopefully you've learned something from this episode that you can apply into your life to become more relentless and also more positive and happier and healthier and wealthier. We'll be right back after this brief announcement with our guest.
Hey, it's Madison Malloy. I'm excited to announce that my new book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up, is now available online and in stores. You can pick up your copy today by going to Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. This new book is a humorous self-help guide to help you remove the obstacles that are holding you back so you can take things less seriously and live a more enjoyable life. I'm so excited for you to read it. Now back to the show.
We are back with our amazing guest on this episode of Next to Madison. I would like to welcome author, speaker, amazing businesswoman, Mitzi Perdue. How are you?
Oh, I'm so happy to be back.
Thank you for having me. I said in my intro, I said she was on the podcast a little over a couple years ago, and now you're back with another amazing book. So tell us about this new book that you did with Mark Victor Hansen called Relentless.
Okay, I'm so proud of this book because I just learned like a couple of days ago that it won a literary award.
Congrats!
Yeah, I'm going to exaggerate as I say this, but you are speaking to, drum roll, a literary titan.
Yay! That is so exciting.
Yeah, the award that came my way, I didn't even apply for it. A friend applied for it in my behalf, and I just got this notice saying that in the category of nonfiction, I won the Literary Titan Award.
Woo. That is well, you've worked so hard and you deserve it. It's definitely well deserved. So,
well, I think an awful lot has to do with the topic, which is Mark Victor Hansen, the Chicken Soup for the Soul guy.
Yes.
And this is going to sound so presumptuous, but I think the book did deserve it, and not because I'm the writer, but because the messages from Mark Victor Hansen are just so inspirational, which, by the way, is why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because my purpose in life is to increase happiness and decrease misery. And to me, one of the ways of increasing happiness is inspiration, helping people be all they can be. And if there's ever a person in this world who provides inspiration, it's Mark Victor Hansen. So
it is, and it's like everybody kind of really found out about him. If they didn't know, the whole chicken soup for the soul story was in the secret. So can you remind us again, how did he get his start? Like he lost his job or something, and then he created this series.
yeah, here's what happened. And I take his life from childhood through today, but almost the biggest part of the whole book is somewhere in his 20s, he'd gone bankrupt. And he was almost suicidal. And yeah, that's pretty low. And how did he get from there to being somebody whose income, there was a period where his income from the Chicken Soup for the Soul series was $6 million a year. Not bad. Mm-hmm. Okay, but
unbelievable.
Yeah. But to my mind, the most unbelievable part is he and his co-author Jack Canfield had this idea for a book that would be full of encouraging, inspirational, redemptive stories. You know, people who were in trouble and how they got past it. Well, they wrote this book. They were excited about it. They were just sure that it was going to help a hurting world. Mm-hmm. And they wrote this thing. They're feeling really good about it. They take it to a publisher. The publisher says, that title, Chicken Soup for the Soul, it stinks. Nope, we won't use it. They went to another publisher, another publisher, another publisher. Finally, they thought, well, maybe we need an agent. They hired one of the top agents possible. A few months and probably 40 turndowns later, their agent fired them. He said, yeah, there's just not a chance that anybody will buy this book because there's just no market for a whole lot of little stories. Not a chance. Well, the reason I titled the book Relentless is because Mark and his co-author were relentless about not giving up. It finally went. I mean, I find this figure hard to believe, but I see it everywhere, so I do believe it. They tried 144 different publishers. Yeah, it's jaw-dropping. And every time
144, you think they would have quit after 10?
I'd be tempted to quit after 10, but they believed in it. And
I love that.
And you know, it gets deeper. They had a pact between themselves that whenever they got a turn down, they'd tell each other next, NEXT, next. I mean, they wouldn't be stopped. And finally, the 145th publisher, he was unique in a way because he felt that his business as a publisher was to help people and provide inspirational stories. So he agreed to read it, and he told me, his name was Vexos, he told me that here he has this book in his hands, he's in the airport, and he starts reading it, and he starts crying, because he said, these stories are so moving, so inspirational, I will give Mark and Jack a contract.
Wow.
And so finally, you know, after 144 turndowns, they've finally gotten a yes. And so Mark Victor Hansen tells Vexos, we're going to sell 1 million copies. And Vexos says, nope, you're going to sell 20,000. Well, when the book first did come out, if you're going to have a bestseller, you'd really love to have 4,000 or 5,000 the first few weeks sales. You'd really like people buying 4,000 or 5,000. Okay. They sold 80.
80 copies?
80 copies.
Oh.
I mean,
oh wow.
It looked as if it was going to bomb, and that would be pretty discouraging, wouldn't it be?
Yes, and you know what I'm feeling right now.
I bet I can guess, but I can offer you encouragement and hope.
Yeah.
Mark says that books, 10% is the writing and 90% is the marketing. And so here's what he did. He would give like 3 or 4 radio interviews a day and a couple of talks a day. and every Sunday he'd talk with he'd address at least one church service, and he'd even give out the book since nobody was buying them. But then the miracles started happening because the book is good. People would read the books and they'd come back and order 5 more and then 10 more. And within, I think, a year and a half, they had sold 1.5 million.
Wow.
But what he had was spectacular never give upness, spectacular belief in his book. And, you know, if it had been me and my book had sold 80 the first few weeks, and you need 4,000 or 5,000 to be a success, or at least to be a bestseller, I would have gotten discouraged. They didn't get discouraged. They just wouldn't give up. In the end, that book sold 15 million copies, but that wasn't the end of it. They realized that, you know, that almost every profession or every age or every medical condition, there can be a chicken soup for the teenager, chicken soup for the newly divorced, chicken soup for orthopedists. I mean, they in the end, I think it's 215 different titles of chicken soup for.
Yeah.
And there was a period when he was making, between speeches and book sales, $6 million a year.
I would take that.
Tell me if you'd take the next one, which
Oh,
I don't think, okay, I don't think it's on offer, but the thing was so successful. There was a point where there was a poll taken and 87% of the population of the United States knows Chicken Soup for the Soul. Well, just the name was so valuable that they sold the name and the franchise that goes with it for $63 million.
Oh, that's amazing. So, and what I love about this story, and I've heard this too, is sometimes books do not go the first 2 months or even 6 months, and then they can take off as long as you're relentless and you truly believe in your work, it sounds like.
But they had a work ethic that's almost beyond compare. I mean, that say they're giving talks in one city, they take a red eye to the next, they get up at 4 a.m. for a show on the East Coast, which might be 7 o'clock, and then they'd give all these radio interviews. And you know, one of the guys, I talked with the guy who drove them when they were in, let's say it was Phoenix, I'm not sure where it was. Anyway, this guy said they're driving along towards where Mark is going to be giving an address to a couple of thousand people. And Mark said, at that gas station, would you mind stopping? And we're talking in the 80s, so they didn't have cell phones. He said, I see that there's a payphone there. I need to stop. Mark would be giving a radio interview in a payphone on the way to a speech after having had maybe 4 hours sleep.
That's amazing. That's it, because it is, and it's what it takes is this constant, you know, marketing and promotion. And that's, you know, what I've done is, you know, going on people's podcasts and doing radio stuff. But, you know, usually people will welcome you with open arms because they're relationships. I know some people, you know, are too busy, but you just keep going. Like, you
Well, tell the name of your book.
So are you ready? Are you ready for it, Mitzi?
Listen, I'm ready to buy it and review it on Amazon. But
Okay.
I know it's not out yet.
Right. It is called Time to Lighten the Fuck Up.
Yay! Oh boy, that's become a big part of my vocabulary recently. Except I say it in Ukrainian, iti nahui.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, it's so yeah, it's out because it came out October 4th. So, you know, it's an exciting time. It's fun to be able to share these lessons with the world. So I just hope everybody enjoys it. If you haven't bought my book, please do. And then if you haven't bought Mitzi's book, buy it now too. So now you got 2 for 1, and it's coming up to Christmas time. So they're both great books, but it's a self-help book. So
I love it. And self-help books, they happen to sell particularly well. I mean, I'm lucky that my book is a self-help book because
Yeah.
I tell stories from Mark's life, but then I talk about lessons you learn from them.
Yeah.
And the reviews I've been getting are that they love hearing about his life, and they love having summarized at the end of each chapter, hints of how you can copy him or what you can learn
That's,
from him.
yeah, I need to get this book and I need to read it because I think it would be perfect timing with all the promotion stuff and just things I have going on right now of when life sets you back, how to reset and keep going.
Well, that's his entire story because, all right, here's my point of view as the author of it. He had a number of basic catastrophes. As an example, I think we're talking 1973. He was a student of the great thinker and architect and just brilliant guy, Buckminster Fuller. And Mark had the idea that, he loved his mentor and his professor, that he was going to build geodesic houses, which could have, in theory, provided inexpensive housing for people throughout the world. And he was so excited about it, and he sunk everything he could into a company that would build geodesic houses.
Yeah.
I mean, his soul was in this. But, the reason that the houses were going to be inexpensive was they were built with polyvinyl pipe. It's that white pipe that you may or may not have seen, but it was dirt cheap at that point.
Okay.
Until the Arab oil strike happened, the Arab oil embargo,
Yeah.
and suddenly the feedstock to make the pipes, didn't become just expensive; it became non-available, and he had millions of orders for building these houses, and suddenly he couldn't do it because with the Arab oil embargo, polyvinyl pipe is made from products from oil.
Yeah.
He had to declare bankruptcy, and that's a pretty severe blow, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
absolutely. My gosh. It's like the word, ugh.
all right, so he ended up, he had put every penny that he could scrape together in investing in this thing, and he had bills to meet, and he couldn't do it. He went bankrupt. And so, being basically penniless and sleeping, 4 of his friends had rented a house. He got to sleep on the floor outside the bedroom of one of his friends. I mean, you're pretty far gone when that happens to you.
Yeah.
If only he could have peered ahead into the future and see the spectacular success that's come his way since. But here's what got him past what I think is I'm going to retrace what I just said. I was going to say I think it was the lowest point in his life. No, it was the lowest point in his life. And I like to joke I'm the world's greatest living authority on Mark Victor Hansen, so I can say the lowest point in his life, where he's wondering, he's thinking, it's horrible to lose money. It's embarrassing to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
But what was torturing him is all these people who believed in him and put up money with him. He's disappointing all of them, and he's thinking, do I even want to live?
Yeah.
And at that lowest point in his life, he called upon God. It's in the middle of the night, he can't sleep, and he's thinking, do I want to live or not? And so he asks God, what am I here for? What's my purpose? And the answer he got was he felt that God was asking him a question in return, but something that he hadn't examined before. The kind of, metaphorically speaking, voice, but the message that came to him at 2 a.m, sleeping on a hard floor with some blankets.
Yeah.
The message was, Mark, what do you want to do? And the answer came to him. I want to be a speaker. I want to talk about things that matter, that people can use, that will make their lives better. And he feels that message did come from God because he hadn't known to ask it. Well, so he woke up, fell asleep peacefully, woke up the next morning, deciding, my destiny is to be a speaker. And then miracles began happening. He asked his 4 roommates, do any of you know anybody who has made a living out of being a public speaker who isn't already famous or gray haired. Can somebody like me, I think he was 28 years old, maybe he was 26. And one of his roommates said, hey, interesting you should ask, because there's a fairly young guy. I have tickets to his talk. I can't use them. Here, take the ticket. Mark went, and it was a public speaker who was an inspirational speaker, a little bit older than him, who was making a living doing public speaking. Mark asked this guy at the end of the speech, told the speaker, I really want to be a speaker. How do I do it? The speaker was discouraging. He told Mark, not one person in 1,000 can do this. I should hardly waste my time on you. And Mark said, no, I have a burning desire to do it. I'm going to do it. I want to be able to spend some time with you and learn what to do. Well, the guy gave him just a few hints, and then the speaker went off on vacation for like a month. When he came back, Mark had followed all his advice, and he was getting speaking engagements at like Rotaries or Kiwanis or just different service, and he was doing 5 a day because Mark Victor Hansen figured out that it's going to take a lot of practice to get really good. And I'm a speaker. I know that's true. I'm certainly not Mark Victor Hansen's category, but I know that the more you do, the more you can read the crowd, the more you can feel that that they're with you, or that you've lost them, or the timing for a joke, or how to punch it home, or how to pause at the right moment. I suppose there's some people that just comes natural. Didn't for me, and I'm pretty sure it didn't for Mark. But with practice, you get better. Anyway, so Mark went on to be somebody earning $6 million a year from his communication.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, from his worst to his best.
I know sometimes when you reach out to God and you're like, I need a sign, I need something, is like when you get it, and it's then your job to follow that intuition or that message and go for it. And I think in my interpretation of kind of, the struggles I've gone through, because I did a lot of public speaking, but not in the public speaking traditional sense. I was a stand-up comic. So those on stage.
But that means you're so far ahead of the average person, because you're not going to survive as a stand-up comic if you can't read the audience, if you can't tell that you're pulling them in.
Yes, timing is key. It's very, very key. But
I think you're 90% of the way there then.
Well, perfect. All right. But the one thing is too that I found in my career, and it sounds like Mark was this way, is you have to be realistic about your dreams and desires. Meaning, if you want to live a certain lifestyle, you have to make sure those goals and those dreams match up with that lifestyle, so you can afford to have the whole package. But also the other thing too, and the mistake that I made early in my career, was always, doing certain things for the money, or only doing things because they would make money, and not doing things because they want to. Instead, it's like, forget the money. As long as you can survive, like, you're perfectly fine. Do what you absolutely love, but be okay with the income it could provide. Because I feel like when you really follow your passion and you're realistic about the goals you want for your life, that's when the money comes. So like, I don't think Mark Victor Hansen was sitting here going, well, I'm going to do this so I can make $6 million a year. I don't even think that figure was in his head.
Never.
He was just like, I'm going to do this because I have a message and I have a purpose. And that is what brought in the $6 million.
I think you've got it exactly in the right order. I think his motives, and I'm going to, again, retract the word think. I know his motives were that he was there to help people, and it happened that the money flowed. But another thing, he has these dreams, but he also says that it's really important to have the dream. It's really important to have the goal. But it's just fantasy unless you do what it takes to make it come true. So once you know where you want to be, you have to figure out how to get from here to there, and then do it.
Yeah.
So if he wanted to be a great speaker, he figured out that he needed an awful lot of practice. And so he had the energy, the relentlessness, to just go out there and speak every possible chance he got. Which, by the way, is sort of the story of my of my speaking, not on his scale. I didn't do five a, a day, but every invitation I could get, I took.
Yeah.
Just with the idea that, sort of like, if supposing you have a dream of playing the piano, you can't just sit down and play. No, you have to practice. And you probably have to start pretty small, and then, in 2 or 3 years you can be magnificent. But you don't start out great.
Yeah, no, it's right. Like anything, especially what is it? The whole saying of like you need 10,000 hours to be considered an expert. So whatever
Yeah,
it
and
takes to get there.
that certainly matches everything that I've experienced in life. That you've got to have the dream, but you've got to figure out the steps to get from here to there.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Because you can have the dream, but you have to have the action.
On the other hand, I'm a huge believer in the importance of dreams, because I had a dream come true recently.
Oh, what
One,
is it?
one, well, it partly has to do with writing,
Okay.
but I've been a writer all my life. I wrote a syndicated column for Scripps Howard on the environment for a good bit of my life.
Nice.
And allow me to boast, there was a period of at least 10 years when I was the most widely syndicated environmental writer in America.
That's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, and that's not that I was so good, it's that I got there first. But,
Okay.
uh,
No,
and
but you
Scripps,
were good, but timing does have a lot to do with certain things.
well, I have a personal theory that there may be 100,000 people who could have done that job better, but I did get there first. And
Yes.
I had the guts to apply for it, which counts, because I could have just thought, I wish they'd discover me. Doesn't work that way.
No, you got to discover yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I had to send out all these nice proposals and pitches. Uh, but, okay, so I have a background in journalism. I love it. It's been my career. Communications has been my career pretty much my whole life. But I had a dream, possibly beginning maybe in my 30s, of being a war correspondent. Now, I was also a young mother, or 2 young kids. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Later on, I still had the dream, but I'm married to Frank Perdue. I'm a corporate wife. Rushing off as a war correspondent just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah. Right.
At age 70, I thought I'm going to do something about it. And I had what I took to be a really good idea. I was friendly with a whole lot of military police who were being sent to Afghanistan, but I was also friendly with their wives. And the military police invited me to go to a forward base in Afghanistan. I even got permission from the US military to do it, to go to Afghanistan and write a book called Seven Who Served.
Oh.
I even had a contract with HarperCollins that if I could deliver the book, they would use it. Yeah, I'm all excited. I get to be a war correspondent.
Yeah.
But then, before I would be allowed to get the certificate saying that I'm, a qualified correspondent, NATO had to approve of it, and they didn't. They told the 4-star general who was supporting me in this, an American general, are you crazy having a 70-year-old woman in Afghanistan? No, absolutely no, no, and no again. So, idea crushed. I thought not a chance. And the years rolled by. Finally, I'm 81 now and proud of it.
You look fabulous, my dear.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
Yeah, I forgot to grow up. But anyway.
That's good.
Somewhere around maybe 5 weeks ago, I had written an article for Psychology Today about human trafficking in Ukraine. It's a spectacularly huge problem because the traffickers prey on the vulnerable, and they just infest the borders between, say, Poland or other border countries and Ukraine, and they just pick off the women or the men for organ harvesting. It's just a nightmare. Anyway, I wrote about this in Psychology Today, and I ended up in a Zoom call with the chief. He's a General Nebitov from the Kiev Regional Police, saying that he knew about my article and he'd like me to come to Ukraine as his guest to see what it was really like. So
Oh, wow.
At age 81,
That's
my dream of being a war correspondent finally came true because I was in areas where, well, like my first night there, I ended up spending part of that night, beginning like at 2 in the morning, in a bomb shelter. There was an air raid.
oh my. So were you scared?
No,
Not at all. You were just saying, this is my purpose. I got to figure out what's going on. I'm going to fight through this fear.
you were inside my mind. Yes, that was my attitude. But that wasn't the only thing. There were. I was a high value target because there's a group called Putin's Children. It's the Wagner group, and they're the nastiest, meanest mercenaries around.
Oh,
And
wow.
and they make a lot of their money by kidnapping people and holding them for ransom. And I have a famous last name, Perdue as in
You're
chicken.
very famous. Yes.
And I, they,
Wow.
the police assigned me at every moment when I was outside the hotel 4 bodyguards with AK-47s, and they didn't even want you to talk with them because I'm not supposed to distract them from looking at every moment. If
Mark.
and there was also a plainclothes policeman, and then at night there would be a policeman outside my door, a bodyguard. So, and we were in areas where there were mines, and I was told, you can walk on the sidewalk in the area of the person ahead of you, but don't walk in the grass because, people have been killed by landmines that are in areas that we haven't cleared yet. They had bomb sniffing dogs, and there were even times when we were going through a village. I was 12 miles from the border with the enemy. I'm 12. In fact, I'm misspeaking. That's 12 kilometers, and I'm not sure of the translation into miles. It might be 9 miles.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever it is, we're close enough
Wow.
to the border so that we can hear gunfire, mortars. But we're going through a village, and the traffic signs say, and it's this little tiny village, but there are traffic signs saying 30 kilometers per hour, and we're going in excess of 80. And this is kind of scary to me, but I am in a police caravan with a police car ahead of me with those flashing lights, and a police car behind me with flashing lights.
Yeah.
And so I want to know why we're going so fast. I don't want to risk people's lives.
Right.
And it turns out that if you're that close to the border, there probably are people tracking the car, and if you go fast enough, they can't get a bead on it.
Smart, but that's frightening. Wow.
Sort of, yeah. I mean, I was more frightened that we might run over somebody than that 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 the bad guys would get me.
So
But I also got to be in Chernobyl,
uh-huh.
and I got to see things that Westerners don't normally see, because I was there visiting police stations which have been bombed, and but I got to. I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I've probably had, since getting back, I think I have 4 published articles so far, and I want to have like another 10.
That's
So,
So
so
how
every,
did it look though? Like, what did it look as like you see it on the news? Was there areas that looked normal?
well, if I can do this cleverly, wish me luck. I'm going to show a picture as the background. I will show you what it looks inside the police station. Can you see me there?
Oh, wow. If you
Yeah.
guys are listening to this online, go to the YouTube video and you'll see what she's showing. But it's a picture of Mitzi standing in a completely demolished. Wow. Please. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
that's a police station, and it's about the size of a couple of tennis courts. But when they bombed it, the incendiary device they had turned the whole inside of the police station into basically a furnace. So it burned down the partitions. There's, for those of you who can't see it, in fact, I'll get out of the way for those who can. That's not working. I have to look at the camera.
Yeah.
There, there, all the equipment's destroyed, all the furniture's destroyed. It's just plain rubble, And even 5 months, if you're walking through that and you're crunching through the rubble on the floor, there's 5 inches of it, and you disturb it even a little, you can still smell that kind of tangy, acrid smoke smell. And, that's
crazy.
all right. Now, here's a story that I was invited to tell, and I'd love to share it with our listeners.
Yes.
When the Russians invaded Ukraine, one of the first things they did is they attacked the police stations. They attacked the police stations, they attacked police communications, they attacked police vehicles, and they did it for one important reason. It's a psychological operation, a psyops. They knew that it's extraordinarily traumatic to have your country invaded, and the impression that I get is it must be like our 9/11, where the World Trade Center went down.
Yeah.
But what about it's like that every single day, day after day for 6 months? I mean, it's stress on a scale that
It's traumatic.
that'd be really hard to imagine unless you've been through it. Well, the Russians figured out that if you really want to demoralize a population, make it possible so that they're attacked from within as well as without. So the Russians emptied all the prisons. So, the rapists, murderers, arsonists, general thieves are just let loose. And you count on the police to help when something goes wrong. You can't, because the police have been knocked out.
Ugh.
And as General Nebetov told me, a demoralized population is easier to control. So the Russians' goal was to demoralize everybody.
I mean, it's just so crazy that it's like still going on, and it's just devastating,
Oh, but I have a theory. I'm ready to believe. I'm ready to believe that the Ukrainians are going to win, because as far as I could see, and I'll tell you why I believe it, the Russians have not crushed the Ukrainian spirit. And
yes, that will keep you going, which is great.
well, let me tell you some examples of it. While I was there, I mean, I think there's no reporter on the planet except me. I'm being really presumptuous saying this, but tell me if I'm right.
Okay.
Who will take this view of why the Ukrainians are going to win. It involves nail polish, breadcrumbs, and roses. Now, how do those tie together?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I was noticing, I was there 5 days, and wherever I went, the first day I noticed that the policewomen that I was interacting with, they all had beautifully done nails. And in fact, one of them, the first day I saw her, pretty red nails. The next day she had redone her nails, and they were like pastel colors, like yellow and light blue. And she was keeping up her appearance. So I began noticing throughout everywhere I went, whether it was office buildings or restaurants or public parks or police stations, public transportation, everything, or in the hotel lobbies even, I think 90% of the women had their nails done, or were keeping up that. And this was puzzling to me, because I'd think your country's being attacked, the law enforcement, the place is kind of lawless because the police, the prisons have been emptied. You can't call the police. It's stress as high as I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of days later, I'm out of Ukraine. I'm in Kent, England at this point, talking with a professor. He's a sociologist. And I said how puzzling it was to me that with all that stress, you saw so many women who still had an element of beauty in their life. And he said, it makes all the sense in the world. It's exactly like, and then he told me this story. There was a prisoner during World War II he was a prisoner of the Nazis. And when they first caught him, he weighed 200 pounds. By the time that he was rescued, he weighed 130 pounds. They were starving him. Every day, this has a happy ending.
Okay.
Every day, he would take a couple of crumbs of bread from the starvation rations he was given, and had put it in the sill of his window. And every day, this beautiful blue bird would come and eat the bread and then just sort of stay and linger with him. Well, when the man was finally rescued and got out, he told everybody what kept me alive was a moment of beauty, something that strengthened my spirits and gave me will to live.
Wow.
The man said that the beauty and the freedom of that bird attached him to a will to live, just
That's
an unwillingness
amazing.
to give up. And the sociology professor said that story you can multiply it countless times, that the people who have beauty in their lives and a will to live, they're the ones who are going to make it. If you don't have that, the prisoners who didn't have some reason to have a will to live, they didn't make it.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
okay, that reminded me of something else, which is, again, that was just stunning to me. And I'm glad that we're looking at this picture of the bombed out police station, which is a lot like a lot of other bombed out police stations I saw. If on the right, you see some picture windows and there's a door behind it.
Yeah.
And if you walk out like 30 yards, you'll see an amazing sight. There's a rose garden. It has about maybe 25 rose bushes in full bloom, and you can tell that somebody has weeded them and tended them, and they're great big beautiful roses.
Wow.
And the members of the police accompanied me into the rose garden, and I'm thinking it's just like the ladies who paint their fingernails, or the prisoner who attracted that lovely blue bird, that they're keeping their spirits alive, their will to resist. And I came away finally with the idea that the fingernails were, I'll say it in Russian, the fingernails, but I'll make the sign on the
Yeah.
iti nahui, which means basically go do something anatomically possible to yourself, Mr. Putin.
Yeah.
Go
Totally.
fuck yourself, Putin.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this was
Totally.
keeping up beauty. First it strengthens their spirit. It reminds them of something beautiful and why they're fighting. But it's also a giant you to the enemy.
That's brilliant.
So that's my breadcrumbs, nail polish, and roses theory of why the Ukrainians are going to win. Their spirits are not crushed.
Beautiful.
It was a very moving thing, because the chief of that police station, he cut one of those roses and handed it to me, a great big beautiful yellow rose. And I'm thinking, he's given me one of the most precious things that he has, and I want to spend the rest of my life returning that favor, doing everything I can to help the Ukrainians.
Oh, that's amazing. But yeah, it's true. As long as it's like the message here is like, no matter, they're going through the most, traumatic thing, but it's like in life, whatever you're going through personally, it's like having that beauty, having that purpose kind of in that beauty can help keep your spirit going. Because there's so many
I think
I want to give up.
I don't personally easily imagine more pain than Russia has inflicted on this country.
It's horrific.
I mean, you don't know whether your loved ones are going to live or die. Your home is rubble. You've lost your work. It's just, and yet even so, they're at least the ones those ladies who do their fingernails. They're not allowing themselves to be crushed. So maybe there's a lesson for us. Can I get all pompous?
Yeah. I want to hear it, because there is definitely a lesson in that. I mean, I'm thinking of myself at the moment, thinking, would I have the strength that these women have? I
kind of think you would, because I think they were ordinary women who are rising above what they thought. But kind of the message that I get from myself is, when things are crushing in on me, and they're not going to be as bad as what the Ukrainian women are going through, but cling to something beautiful. Just have a moment of respite where you remember why it's all worthwhile. And maybe it's a memory of, I don't know, your mother, or or your best friend, or beautiful music, or something where you give yourself a moment of beauty to help endure whatever's difficult.
Yeah. No, I think that's a brilliant message. Is, always seeing the beauty in life, because it's easy to get down and see the problems that are facing all of us. But finding that beauty and that hope almost is what keeps you going and keeps your spirit strong. But yeah,
I
these,
was,
these women are a great role model for people.
yeah, they
It's
really are. Like one of the
amazing.
women, she was in, I got to talk, and I feel fairly close to several of the women in the police department. I mean, would end up hugging and crying. And one of them told me that the first 2 months after the invasion, all she could do was cry all day long because her apartment was now rubble. She had collected some, I'm not quite sure what she collected, but whatever her collection was, it's just gone. Uh, Her apartment that she had put a lot of effort into decorating, and yeah, just all the things that attached her to a normal life, gone. And then one day, her little 6-year-old told her, "Mommy, why are you crying all the time?" And by the way, this is a woman who today does her fingernails,
Yeah.
but she realized, I'm not any good to anybody if all I do is cry all day long. I've got to be strong for my daughter. I
Mhm.
will get through this. I'll paint my
Yeah.
nails.
Yeah.
They're not going to crush me.
I love that. Oh, that is, I mean, it's such a good message, and it's about being relentless. Your book.
Yeah.
It's like
I
whatever.
ended up loving that woman so much. And yeah, I assume I'll never see her again. But when we hugged, I just felt as if the universe was passing between us because I think she could tell how much I admired her. And I think
Yeah.
she appreciated being admired.
Yeah, of course. Well, yeah, everybody wants to be seen and heard and appreciated. So you probably made her day as she made your day and impacted your life in a positive way.
Yeah, or the guy who gave me the flower. Uh, I've actually written about it, and I hope it gets back to him. I mean, I've sent it to somebody who knows him, so I hope he knows now how much that flower meant to me.
Yeah, sometimes it's always the little things you do for somebody that can really make their day, and you have no idea what it is, whether it's holding the door open for somebody, buying a coffee, letting them pass in front of you. You just never know. So it's always important to do good things because you just don't know how it's going to positively impact somebody's life.
By the way, can I show you another part of my adventure?
Yes,
Uh,
of course. What is this?
okay, you're looking at a Russian tank.
Oh, wow.
It's one that the Ukrainians destroyed, and I'm standing beside the general. And
Wow. That's an amazing picture. I'm surprised it's so green.
I think that's a pretty accurate. Well, it's rusted because. Uh,
No, I
okay,
mean
according
like the nature and stuff. It seemed like everything was so burned, but it's good to see that there's still nature thriving there.
okay, a lot of stuff was burned,
Okay.
but in fact, I think even those trees behind us have been damaged by fire.
Yeah, I can see. Yeah, I can see that. It's
But what we're looking at right now, there's if you could pan out more widely, you'd see 9 destroyed Russian tanks. And the Russians, I get the impression that at least some of them aren't that good in being tactical because they were on a road and the Ukrainians ambushed them, but in a very clever way. One tank met the column that was going forward, and another circled around in back, and they shot the front tank and the back tank, and then the middle ones, if they'd try to move to the side, you know, they'd get shot. So 2 Ukrainian tanks just quickly destroyed 9.
wow. That's amazing. Yeah, and they're just not giving up. I mean, it's good that their spirit's so strong and they're not gonna, let them win, which is good, you know. But maybe, I don't know, my theory is that these Russian soldiers really don't like Putin and they don't want to fight his war, and so they're just kind of maybe just giving up a little bit when they get there. I don't know. That's just a theory.
Okay, now I don't know for sure either. I can tell you of rumors that I hear though, that at least there's one area, it's called Kherson.
Hmm.
And if you read it, it looks at it as if it ought to be Kherson. but the Ukrainians pronounce it Kherson.
Okay.
And I'm going to show off and pronounce it the Ukrainian way.
Okay.
In Kherson, Kherson is an island a little bit, it makes me think of Manhattan. Manhattan is surrounded by water.
Mm-hmm.
Kherson is surrounded by water. The Ukrainians kind of lured a whole lot of Russian soldiers into that area, giving the idea that they were going to attack directly. Well, once a huge number of Russian soldiers were on this island, and I'm prepared to be wrong, but eyeballing it from the maps, it looks about the size of Manhattan.
Okay.
And it's fairly densely populated. The Ukrainians went and bombed all the bridges all around it. So all of a sudden, the Russian soldiers, they can't get supplies. And they build pontoon bridges. The Ukrainians bomb the pontoon bridges, but they wait until supplies are on the bridges and then they bomb them. And the idea is, instead of fighting the Russians, now they don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have munitions. And I told you that what I've described so far, I follow military blogs, I've seen satellite photographs. I'm pretty sure of what I've just described so far. The part that I'm not sure of, which is more in the nature of rumor, is that people are intercepting like cell phone messages from the Russian soldiers in Kherson who are saying, "No, we hate Putin. He's abandoned us. We don't have munitions to fight. We're hungry. We're thirsty."
I just like, I don't think anyone likes this guy. So it's like they're being forced to do a job they don't even want to do, which is so devastating.
The only thing is, by the way, tell me how much time we have, because I don't want to go over.
We got about 5 more minutes, because I want you to also then tell us where we can get your book and hear you speak and all that good stuff.
Perfect. Okay, well, I think I can make this pretty short. I've seen that an awful lot of Russians only hear that the Ukrainians started the war, that they were killing off Russian nationals in Ukraine, and that this is a totally justified war, and that Putin is doing the right thing, and the reason that the Ukrainians are holding out is because their puppet masters, the Americans, are trying to kill Russians. So they're very different stories that the different people are hearing.
It's like the brainwashing, right? It's almost like our media today too. You don't know what's the truth and what isn't. They're telling you what fits the narrative. And so I think it goes with if you're trying to control people, which clearly he is, let's tell them the version that will that will justify my actions.
Well, I've read that, I don't know that this is true either, and it might be outdated, but I've read that 78% of Russians think that Putin's a hero for defending the ethnic Russians in Ukraine after Ukraine.
Well, if they're told a bad story, yeah, because they were told a lie. And I know it's just like, you just got to pray for both the Russians and the Ukrainians, the Russian people, meaning, that are suffering because they're trapped in this communist country with this leader who's so horrific and harming them, and then the Ukrainians who are being attacked left and right. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. The amount of evil in this world is so
I've never seen so much
awful,
outright evil. Yeah, I mean, once you've seen a mass grave, I mean, I'm ready to believe more in evil than I ever did before, which is strengthening my religious faith.
Right, and I know you are religious, and in the Bible, and this is all kind of seems like it's leading up to him returning, and just that it was going to get really bad, and a lot of this stuff seems to be happening, that Satan is definitely here, and he's
I've never been a more
mark, and it's
I figure that I have seen things that make me feel that I've stared evil in the face, but
you don't even know if they're human anymore. I mean, you just don't know what's going on. But that's why it's so important to just be kind and have your faith. Don't steer away from your faith, because there is so much evil. Because I think in the Bible he had said, like, he was coming down to turn people against God. And by having this constant evil and this is all you're seeing is the negative, not the positive, because they have a story to sell. People are it's easy to lose your faith, and this is when it's so important for people to your way to fight back against whether it's the media, the wars, or anything, is to have your faith in God and humanitarianism, like, or humanity, stronger than ever, because you won't let the devil win at this point, because he has definitely infiltrated this place. It is
I
100%
have no question.
here.
I have no question. But the evil I saw strengthens my faith because I know which side I want to be on.
Absolutely, right? You can never go wrong with being kind and being good, and it's like we just have to pray for the people that are suffering because of this evil and the egos, almost, it's really it's very sad, but it's tough. So anyways, on a lighter note, before we wrap up, what are your top 3 to 5 tips for to stay relentless? If somebody's like, I need to be relentless, what are your top tips?
Well, I guess number one is don't be afraid of failure. When Mark was turned down 144 times, he kept up. So I guess tip number one is, for being relentless, is when you get a turn down, or maybe when you get kicked in the teeth, or just some bad thing happens to you,
Yes.
You're paying your dues. It happens to everybody. So it might be a teeny tiny setback, but keep on, because that's the price you pay for getting where you want to be.
Yes.
Tip number two, I think kindness is all important. When I'm 81, and when I look back in my life of the things that I regret, the things I regret most are times when I wasn't kind. So yeah, be kind. And
Yeah.
for a third,
Really well said.
I think, okay, let's get biblical. The story of the talents. I think the good Lord gave you abilities, and I think your job is to use them.
Yeah.
There's a phrase I grew up with, which is service to man is the road to God. And I think that's sort of an extension of what you do unto the least of men, you do unto me. So service to man is the road to God. Serve men with
Yeah.
the idea that you're serving God.
Oh, absolutely. So you always win when you figure out a solution of how to help people.
I believe that's true.
You can't go wrong with that, because that also leads back into kindness.
Well, kindness and love, it seems to me, are awfully closely related.
Oh, 100, yeah, 100, 100%. It's just, but no, that's great. And then what else did I want to ask
I know you
you?
wanted to plug my book again.
Yes. So you guys, it is Relentless. It's the story of Mark Victor Hansen by Mitzi Perdue, our guest. I should know this, but I don't. He's still alive, right?
Oh, very.
Okay, good.
I talked with him
I know Jack
yesterday.
Canfield passed.
What?
No, not Jack Canfield. Who was the other guy from The Secret? Sorry, I'm spreading rumors on my own podcast. Who was the other guy from Bob Proctor?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Bob Proctor's in this book, by the way.
Oh, is he?
Yes, I was one of I may be the last person who interviewed him before he passed.
What an amazing guy. But yeah, I mean, it's the whole story is just amazing of his, I'm looking at his face on your cover right now that you're holding up, and it's just like you're looking at that and it's like, okay, like he can do it, I can do it. Like he's such an inspiration and gives you hope. And I can't wait to read the full book so I can kind of have it on my nightstand. And every time I do feel discouraged or I feel like I'm getting setbacks, I feel like I can go to this book to get some inspiration and motivation. So thank you for writing it.
Well, I love how you described it, because that's why I wrote it. I wrote it to help people and to inspire.
Yeah.
I want people to be more than they expected to be.
100%, because I think, and you hear it in the Secret, and you hear it in other self-help books, but the only thing holding us back is us, because we don't have the true belief in what we're actually capable of. But I always like to say, one of my things is like, the two things that should be on the forefront of your mind is morality, which makes you a nice person, and mortality, which is the absolute, just having that in the forefront of your mind, like, you're going to die. Like, this is going to end. Like, why are you living in fear? Why are you not squeezing the shit out of life? Why are you worried about what your neighbor down the street or your friend from high school thinks? You're going to die. So if you have that kind of on your mind, you're going to take more risk that will get you to squeeze everything out of life. And I think people, when they get really stressed or they're afraid to take risk, it's because they think they're going to live forever in some weird, they're operating like they're going to live forever. Like, if you knew you were going to die, like, would you be afraid to post that video on social media? Probably not.
Exactly. I love your philosophy, and I'm getting a really good clue about why your audience loves you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So where can people go to get their copy of Relentless?
Okay, the very best is Amazon, just Mitzi Perdue and Relentless. Or
Okay.
you can also get to me, Mitzi Perdue, uh, Mark Victor Hansen. Either way, you'll get to the book.
Perfect.
Or if you want to read some of the other things I've written, MitziPerdue.com.
Wonderful. And so Amazon's the main place. Is it available like if they go to Barnes and Noble, or is it mainly on?
It is, but uh, I like people to go to Amazon, because the more people who go to Amazon, the higher it is in the search engines, and the more people will see it. And
Yes,
so
that's true.
that's my favorite, but I'll take anything I can get.
Well, I love it. Well, keep doing the work you're doing, because you're inspirational, you're motivational, and you're definitely making the world a better place. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate all the people that have tuned into this episode and continue listening to this podcast. Couldn't do it without you. And we will see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@next2madison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.